Hawaii.
Pivoting, what are your thoughts about like the drag coefficient, like the smoothness, the ease of pivoting, like, you know, wearing socks on, you know, tiles, or should you just learn to do it, you know, wearing boots on concrete? Like, you know, is there some guidance on that?
Yeah, sure. You know, you train in the most ideal circumstance. So if you can get a very smooth sliding surface, then opt for that. That's the ideal circumstance, because then you can really glide and let the stance move freely. And then, so what I mean is when you can, then choose to train optimally. And then outside of that, the rule of thumb is that the kind of general guideline is to pivot to the degree your body allows without excessive force. So if you do go to the boots on concrete level, your feet aren't going to pivot. If they're good boots, they got a good grip, right? So essentially you pivot. Like, let's just say I am boots on concrete, man, right? And I go to pivot now. It's going to be this. It's not, the feet aren't going to move, so I'm going to have to turn and then probably lift my feet to step if I do want to turn and face. So yeah, it's basically the natural movement of the body is the kind of prescription without, you know, hurting yourself. Ideally, yeah, get that smooth tiles on socks as much as possible when you practice. It's just easier, you know, to really get that sense of turning from the center, because you are looking to, you know, further to that question, you know, you are looking to get the sense of the floating center. You know, so as you center yourself, it's like there's an awareness of a floatingness of the center. And when you have that very frictionless surface, that kind of really helps you to feel that you're floating. So if someone looks at you doing the form, people will often say, "Oh, you look like you're floating." Like when you're doing your chum Q, people say, "Oh, you look like you're floating." See, that's how you know Jesus knew chum Q, because he floated on water.
You beat me to it. I love it. Thank you, Sifu.
My pleasure. Team UK is winning today, hey? We have
There was 3 of us as well, weren't there? Yeah.
Team UK.
Marlo was on this today.
Yeah, Marlo. Letting the team down.
And I could feel the etheric energy coming down. And then as I was practicing, my temperature, heat, there was a lot of heat. This is the first time I've had heat in pivoting.
Okay.
Is that normal?
Yeah. Often I've just come across it like probably hundreds of times where when people practice the state, they get hot. I asked the teachers in Cyprus, and their explanation was first the heat, then the light. So it's like you're waking up the etheric body and its awareness of it in relationship to the body, and further its relationship to the emotions and mind. So as you awaken the etheric body and start to really connect with it, it tends to start off with heat. So you get hot. And then the light, meaning then it becomes a real kind of experience for you. So you now see it with the mind's eye as light. So you experience it as a light body now, because it's awakened in your mind's eye. So yeah,
that's in like the meditation, but this is the first time in the pivoting.
Okay, well, you know, if that's the experience, then it seems to be that would be you bringing the state into the pivoting. Because oftentimes when you first do the movements, you're just doing it physically, because you're just trying to get the coordination of what the fuck you're trying to do, right? And then as you really bring the state into it, now it's more of a moving meditation. You're really using the intention to lead the energy to lead the body, as opposed to just subconscious physical movement, which is the whole point of state and Sulim Tao, is to make it, you know, spirit, intention, energy, body as the directionality of the movement, as opposed to just subconscious physical movement. Because if you lead from intent, which means, you know, our method is to go to the spiritual intent, so it's even higher, then you're moving from a finer frequency of energy, but also you're integrating spirit, mind, emotion, energy, body as the power delivery, as opposed to just physical.
It was as you were bringing in the joy and how your master was like, and the heat just kept going.
Yeah.
To the point my and everything was wet, which is it's just raising the frequency, isn't it?
Yes. You know, that's right. You know, that's something, you know, we've all, you know, we're aware of power versus force. We're aware that there's a map of consciousness, meaning there are levels of consciousness, right? Which was the very interesting aha moment for me when I realized that my master had a high level of consciousness, and then, you know, I could use basically being able to be in that room for 10 years and just observe what happened through that time allowed me to see the different levels of consciousness at play within myself and within the room, if you think of it in relationship to Wing Chun. And, you know, and as I reflect back on it and think of all the words he said, you can actually link the words to the levels of consciousness. Like I said earlier, like he'd say, it becomes a joy of living, you know, and he'd say to people, you know, that were concentrating too hard, he'd say, take it easy. It should be easy. There's like, it should be a sense of ease, you know, and he'd say, you know, like it's a flowing forward. It's not a forcing forward. Like all the words, you can start to understand that, it's because he was coming from a different perspective. The first thing that triggered it for me was actually one of my friends there. He looked at, we were standing at the back of the room and we were just looking at Qigong as we always did, right? Just staring at him and, I love you. Just staring at him. And my mate, he goes, Qigong's not human. I go, what do you mean? Not human, you idiot. And he goes, he's like an alien. I go, you're stupid. And he's like, nah, he's different. Just look at him. He's not the same as us. He's got something different. And I was just like, you're fucking stupid. Like, I was just like, he's a human. Like, but in reflection later on, I realized he was hit on something there. He had a higher level of consciousness, you know. So, and then in further studies and realizations, even though we all are human, we all are varying degrees of human, and there's a couple of very obvious lines of different human. You've got those who are below integrity, so at a lower level of consciousness. On the map of consciousness, that's the 200 line, and those who are above integrity. And the interesting thing is that when someone goes over the line of integrity, the etheric body and the energetic brain actually get activated. So there's an activation of energy through your system when you go over the line of integrity, and that means you're, simply put, you come out of like a victim mindset to a responsible mindset, where you know that you're in charge of your own life and emotional condition. You're no longer blaming, complaining, resenting. You know, sure, we can drop to the lower levels at times. We take vacations, but we live in a certain house, right? So, you know, that's a very important point in the development of this style of power. It really becomes consciousness power. It really does. Relative to the quality of consciousness you're aligned with, which allows the power to come through your physical body. Pardon me. So yeah, joy. That was always a sentence that stuck out in my mind. He would always say, it becomes a joy of living. He'd often say that. It will become a joy of living, joy of life. And if you look at the scale of consciousness, joy is 540. It's that unconditional love frequency. And that's tapping into the next critical jump. So you've got the first critical jump, which is the from below integrity to above integrity, from victimhood to responsibility, which activates the etheric body and etheric brain. And then you have the jump from linear to non-linear, from the 499 to the 500s. So linear expression to non-linear expression. And joy and love and peace are a non-linear experience. It's not like you need something to cause you to love someone. If you love them, it's like you love them, right? You really just love them. There's no like cause, so to speak. It's not because they have brown hair, I love them. You know what I mean? There's like a non, step-by-step process to allow you to step into that frequency, so to speak. So that's the next jump, to be loving, to be, and not to say that having good reason or courage isn't powerful as well, like having an upward frequency. It's just that seems to be the more even powerful one, because he was always in a joyful kind of wise. He had this wise, joyful energy. That was him. If I had to use two words for him, wise and joyful. Like he kind of exuded that kind of energy when he spoke, and just being around him, which is the 400s to the 500s on the map of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if we can aim to be wise and joyful and peaceful, then we can set up because that's how you do it. It's actually really simple. You set the intention to be that way, and naturally you float in that direction. Because intention sets direction, right? You set the intention and then you start to move that way. It's like, in a simple terms, I intend to go to the shops and I end up at the shops. Same.
Mm-hmm. Right. Affirmation and gratitude on that one. Yeah, because if you say it consistently, it's just...
I've got
Sorry. Thank you.
Sorry,
right.
I've just got a question on the state. So when we're doing, because I don't obviously, I do it standing, so in the stance. So what my question is we're trying to rise energy, through our body, through the crown, okay, and then obviously we do that on a continuous basis, and then what we're doing as well, we're sinking as well. So I suppose what I kind of trying to manage is the equilibrium between the two, in terms of the rising chi and the sinking energy, and just that equilibrium. Where is that, and how do I manage that?
Sure. Okay. So, and you're talking about in state training, in form training, in life, or in all contexts?
Which for me kind of just leads straight into form training anyway.
Sure.
Kind of, but for me, it's kind of getting it there in the state first and managing it in the state, then taking it through to form training.
Gotcha. So context is important. So you've said, meaning the place of practice, or the environment you're in will determine how you practice, right? Because it's very linear conscious practice in the state, so that you can get a grasp on each part of the condition, right? We really break down the rising of energy in state training. We're like, okay, sense the space, get a good feeling first, cool, now start to rise it. So there's a very sequence type of approach, so that you can start to grasp the condition you're looking for. So the first thing I'd like to address is the way you think about it, because if we think about the words you've used, you said, when I try to rise in relationship to sinking, and then how do I manage it? Which is fine, because I understand what you mean, but if we can address the way you look at it, that will help its expression. Meaning it's not something you try, and it's not something you manage. It's something you place your awareness on. It's not something you do, it's something you are. You have a center. Gravity is active of its own accord. You don't need to make gravity work, and you don't need your center. You don't need to make your center or try to make your center, if that makes sense. So what I'm getting at is more of a placement of awareness, as opposed to a doing, trying, manage. Make sense? That's the underlying baseline.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so as opposed to thinking I'm going to make my center rise, just place your awareness in your center. That's all. And now you have a sense in your center, because we're talking about it, right? So that's the first kind of, you want to think of it more of a awareness than a doing, right? So it's like you're watching television, as opposed to making the characters interact with each other. You're just observing and aware of it. Okay, that's stage one. So that's the underlying approach. Now, if we bring it to Okay, then we ask the question, how do we manage the relationship of rising and sinking? Well, first thing is that in state training, you get the feeling for what it is. You have a sense of the center, you get a good feeling, and then you practice the rising through the center whilst in the good feeling. And that's an important point. You want to make sure you are in a good vibrational quality, as you rise or before you rise, so that you're not rising the incorrect type of energy, because that's where people fuck themselves up. Further to that, now that you've sensed it, now that you've got into a good feeling quality and you've had a sense of rising, you just keep a soft awareness there. There's no longer a need to think, okay, I've got to rise, because that will take you into a linear sequence of timing, which will take you out of the state. Because, and I know this.
Makes perfect sense, yeah.
Yeah, I know this because I did it for like decades, like a decade or so, trying to, okay, now I'm going to taught Taigong, now I'm going to rise up to the top. Oh shit, I'm not rising down there anymore. I've got to go back to the start. And then I rise again. Oh yeah, I got it to the top of the head. Wonderful. Now I'm going to sink here. Oh fuck, I forgot to rise now. So it's like, it's too linear in its approach. It's not, the doing, it's the state, which is a condition. So you have a process which allows you to, in a linear way, get an experience for its non-linear expression. You go, okay, Taigong, and I have a feeling of goodness in my center, and I have a risingness, okay, wonderful. And then all it requires is a gentle placement of awareness, like the first point I spoke about. You've already risen, right? Gravity's constantly releasing. If you have a good feeling and an awareness of your center, the rising is natural. It's an expression of our nature. Meaning, Sigong, my master, he didn't actually rise energy. He noticed in his last years of life that the rising was happening. He didn't consciously rise. You get it? He just kept his back straight, used no force to focus everything forward, and discovered mindfulness. So he didn't even notice that he was rising. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? That means the rising is a natural thing, just like breathing, if you have the right level of awareness. So his awareness and his consciousness was already a good awareness and consciousness, like we spoke about earlier. He was already in a good frequency. So the rising of energy in his system was a natural consequence of him practicing, and a natural consequence of him living, essentially. Because once you're above 200, there is a rise through your center. Once you have a degree of, integrity, which you wouldn't be doing these teachings if you didn't, then you naturally have a risingness. So number one, you go through the process in state so that you can start to, encourage and be aware of what's happening there. So the rising of energy consciously that we do at the beginning is to really just help you to get a sense of it, but also to clear anything there. So the actual approach of the rising I use is a combination from Sigong, the Researchers of Truth, Daskalos and the Cypriots, and Dr. Hawkins. Long story short, Hawkins taught a method for rising safely, but I'd already learned how to use the energies from the Cypriots. In practice on myself, I found, okay, this is the best way to do it now, because it's a safe, methodical, uplifting approach to doing it, as opposed to the method that my master was teaching, where it was just Taigong rise with no awareness of quality of energy and the different types of energy you do it with, sensing, moving, and visual, right? So that's the first component of your question, the actual risingness. You practice it in state, but then once you've kind of brought awareness to it, you just chill. Okay, cool. There's a risingness there. Just like a fountain in a nice garden, it just runs by itself. You don't have to keep pushing it up. It's on its own. Yeah, cool. And then the next part of the question was sinking and how its relationship to sinking, right? So it's very much a similar process, like I just explained. So you do your state training, and you have that gentle washing of attention down. You gently wash emotions down. You gently wash thoughts down, so that you're releasing and letting go. Because the Feng Shui term means relax, but it also means let go. So we want our physical body to relax, but we want the mind and the other qualities of mind, so emotion, to release and relax as well. So you do it in the state, you go, oh, nice, there's a nice releasing, that's awesome, this is great. And you can think of it as a very comprehensive release. You can let it even release through the whole center too. So even as there's an up, there's a down. Like, you know, like you're shooting water upstream, it's still going upstream, but it's also going downstream, yeah? So you can, it's both, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you practice it in the state as a way to be, okay, cool, I'm quite conscious of sinking, releasing, and then it becomes the same equation as the rising. It's an awareness of. You don't have to make gravity gravity. You just know it's there. So you go, oh cool, I'm aware of myself in space, and as I place my sensing there, the intention already activates it all. So you're just aware of yourself in space. You're standing upright, so there's a natural rising. You're a human being on Earth, so there's going to be sinking. You know what I mean? There's no escaping the sinkingness. It's just a constant. I was training with this guy. He was a really good student, but he moved to Indonesia. Anyway, and we were chisawing, and I was explaining sinking, and he was like, you know, I can make myself sink, and then it turns off and on. So it was a kind of a similar question. And then I said to him, you know, you don't have to make yourself sink. You align with sinking. And somehow that clicked for him. And then all of a sudden he's like, ah. Oh. He said, I just feel like I'm stepping into a flow of sync. Yeah, it's like you're just tuning into the radio station of it as opposed to making it sync. So let's look at the fundamentals of what's really going to help you here. It's an awareness of, it's a placing of gentle focus on the natural rising and releasing within your system already. Your body, your mind, and your emotions want to sink and let go. There's a part of ourselves that likes to hold on to things, so to speak, that likes to hold on to, right? So that needs to be released as well. So there's a natural releasingness. There is a natural risingness through the center. Just place your focus in the center, go into a good feeling quality, and that will, you know, so you just place your focus there, and what you want to do is have your center and your intention as one thing. So whenever you place your focus in your center, you activate intention, so meaning spiritual intention, the upward quality. So you simply just sense yourself, you have an awareness of yourself in space, and that will naturally manage the relationship, to come back to your initial question, manage the relationship between them, because it is a natural condition. It's natural to be in a sense of upward alignment. It's natural to be releasing and sinking. There's no necessity to think that you have to make it sink or make it rise. Approaching it that way is too slow and too linear, and you'll never get it. You'll just never get it. Yeah. If you keep thinking in terms of try and manage, you have to think in terms of awareness of.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Perfect sense, sir.
Awesome.
Perfect. Yeah. It just you know, because you have these feelings, these internal feelings. You don't know. Okay, so what's happening there? What's happening here? So for me, it's like, well, what's going on there? And I just think you've answered it perfectly. So thank you.
Yeah. And this actually links back to that other kind of jump that we have within our consciousness, meaning that the fields below 500 are what Hawkins would describe as the Newtonian fields, meaning the cause and effect levels. And if you're thinking in terms of cause and effect, then you're always going to be thinking, okay, I do this to then do this, and then once I've done this, I then do this. So you're thinking in a linear terms. You really want to think of the state as non-linear, which is, when you're moving into your spiritual intention, it's a condition. It's not something based on this causes this, causes this. It's based on entry into a field. You go, joyful. And you allow that field to express itself. And this is to take it a little deeper. The cause and effect is one way of experience, and it's not wrong or right. It's just levels of experience. And then you've got the non-linear. So you've got cause and effect, and then you've got spontaneous emergence, which is like one's potential manifest moment to moment according to given circumstance, as opposed to this causes this, causes this. The this causes this is just slow and somewhat painful.
It's full of blockages. You explained it. I can see this, and this. It's full of blockages, and it kind of doesn't allow oneness, so to speak. It's full of separate blockages.
It's not a state. It's more of a method, you know. And I used to teach that way because that's what I'd learned, you know. Taigong, rise up energy through the spine, expand the vertebra as you do it. Use this part of the brain to consciously relax and release, then turn the joints as you point everything to the center. And because of all the steps, like the description of what happens on a physical level, essentially, it doesn't allow you to enter into the state or become the state. It just shows you like a pathway to generate a certain amount of power, as long as you can keep a level of concentration on each point. But because it was so linear, you'd lose focus on one of the steps, or it would just disappear quickly.
Yeah.
But once
it's quite prescriptive in its methods. So.
Yeah, and there's value to it because you can observe it and go, okay, cool, I've learned that this is kind of what I'm looking for. But ultimately, you want to go beyond that. You know, you think of the simple sentence that my master used to say, I am Silam Tao. If you just think of it in that way, I am Silam Tao. There's no prescription, there's no method there. He just is it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I am centered. I am rising. I am releasing. I am focused. I am moving effortlessly. Like there's no need to do anything. He just is. You know. So that's why, you know, often we'll use that kind of auto suggestion. I am the state. I am the state. When my master said that I am Silam Tao, and I heard him say it a few times, I started saying it all the time, like, I am Silam Tao, I am Silam Tao. I knew I was lying to myself at the time. I was like, I am Silam Tao. And then over time, you're like, oh, I actually am Silam Tao.
Well, you know, that's the intent that sits behind that thought, isn't it? And, you know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's what you just described there as well. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like there's no essence involved if you do follow that prescriptive method. You know, it's kind of, it loses its essence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Essence isn't prescriptive, it's not made up, it's just there.
That's right.
Sense?
Oh,
I'm trying to get too deep.
Makes perfect sense, brother. And actually, it's funny because the more you try to kind of subtract from the approach, right? So you look at, for example, the Silam Tao, you look at the state, and if you think, okay, if I had to refine it all down so that I could just have like one point of focus, like the essence of it, then it really seems to come back to just being, to just feeling good and centered. So centered in your intention, infused with spirit, seems to be the very basics of it. So if you just place your focus on yourself, so you kind of have a level of self-awareness and attune with a good feeling. And then if you break it even further down past that point, you go, okay, I'm just going to feel good. I'm just going to focus on staying in a good vibrational quality. And that seems to be the fastest. Like if you had to simplify it, that's a very good simplification, to just maintain an elevated sense of emotion within oneself. Via what? Via one's point of, because essentially that comes back to your point of focus, meaning what you're concentrated on, because that will reflect as an emotional quality. So essence is a good word. I like it. Thanks, Wardo, for running that state training yesterday. You're the best. You allowed me to continue to recover and then get out and finish set up at Mind Body.
Anytime, Sifu. Thank you for the opportunity.
No,
awesome.
my pleasure.
Good. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was really clear. It was good. Amazing.
I mean, you guys.
I like what you said about stepping into flow. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way you align when you step into it. It's allowing and you
Yeah, it really is a stepping into an alignment with, like, the flow's already there. It's not something we make, you know, just like gravity, just like oxygen, just like the sky. It's just there, right? And really just it's interesting. The two very useful words to step into flow, so to speak, or to step into the state are allowing and surrender. Allowing and surrender seem quite similar, but they're approaching the same place from a different angle. So allowing is like a letting in, meaning if you're trying to allow the essence or the feeling of your intention to come in, that means you have something that's blocking that. Meaning, okay, I'm trying to allow peace in. What's blocking peace? See what I'm getting at? So and then surrender becomes the other part of the equation, because you're surrendering that blockage to allow that in. So the allowing of peace to enter your center, right? For example, or joy, or whatever your intention is, right? Say I'm allowing joy to enter, it requires a surrender of the blockages to the entry. So allowing and surrender are similar. One's allowing it in, one's letting go of the blocks. Allow, surrender. So they're two very good words to enter into.
That's why I get the hit, because it's allowing, and then the blocks are just being burnt.
Yes.
To raise more consciousness, to align.
Yes, and you can think of that's right. So you can think of it. The way I like to look at it is like this is the yin and yang of our training. You're allowing that energy in, allowing the good feeling quality into the center, and then you're surrendering the blockages. So you're letting go of tension, doubt, fear, worry. You're allowing joy, peace, power into your system. So it's like intention and surrender seem to be the two areas where we have to place our attention, or do our work, in inverted commas, is to continually align and allow the feeling of our higher intention, so our consciousness rises, and then surrender and let go and release the negativities, doubts, fear, blame, worry, complaint, resentment, anger, pride, guilt, shame, to release, so that we can actually go deeper into that. So it's like if you think of your whole body as 100%. Let's call it like I have X amount of cells, and the total of my cells is 100%. We want to slowly increase the percentage with that sense of peace, of joy, of intention, and decrease the percentage of fear, doubt, anger, worry, blame, complaint, right? So that slowly you release out all the blockages, so that you really step into the consciousness power that my master was talking about. The mind leading the energy, leading the body. The Nim Tao leading the chi, so to speak. But and chi is life force. It's life force, which is an expanding, loving energy. It's not, a forceful, angry energy, so to speak. Alrighty, I better hold it there. I've got to get on to this festival event thing. Wonderful to see you guys today. Much love. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace out. Peace, 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 peace. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Much love. Bye-bye.